And I'm going to ask you to look. If you look at the poppet socket, I feel like that'll look like you're, or maybe a little over.
Okay.
Yeah. So then it'll just look like you're looking at the camera.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yes. I'm
Great.
a little nervous, but...
No, don't be nervous. It's going to be great. Okay. What's your name?
My name's Keshara.
Okay. And how old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay. And so, Keshara, who are you on a soul level?
On a soul level, I would say I'm a true empath. Like, I feel everything from everyone, including strangers, which is why majority of the time I like to be by myself. Because it's very difficult going through whatever you're going through emotionally and then taking on stuff from other people and you can't control it. On a soul level, I will also say that I'm a calm person, but also I'm very angry. And I'm both at the same time, all the time, especially the anger. Primarily because of what I experienced growing up in society as a Black woman. So I think that sums up the basics of who I am on a soul level.
How old were you when you realized that you were an empath?
I honestly can't remember a particular age. I think that more so when I was younger, I couldn't understand. Like, I didn't like have the word to match to it, that I'm able to like feel other people's emotions or understand their emotions and feelings. I don't know. I can't remember an age, but as far as I can remember, I think that I've always been a very emotional person, and I've always couldn't fully handle like other people's emotions because I can like literally feel it.
What's your sign?
I'm a Taurus.
Oh, me too. What's your birthday?
May 10th.
Oh my God, mine's May 9th.
Oh my gosh,
Is
that's
that
so
not crazy?
cool. I never meet Taurus, so it's so
Really?
cool when I do. Yeah.
Oh my God, me, my mom, my sister, and my brother are Taurus.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh my
That's
God.
so dope.
I love that. Okay, that sounds like I like her. Okay. So I'm gonna give you 3 categories, and I want you to tell me what means the most to you and what means the least to you.
Okay.
So there's love, sex, relationships. There's society, culture, politics, and then there's spirituality and or religion. So I just want you to tell me what takes the front seat in your life, and then we can work our way down, and you can mix and match those however you want to.
Okay, I would say number 1 is spirituality, but not religion.
Okay.
That's something that I've been sort of like getting more in tune in, I would say, since I was about maybe like 19 or 20. I was raised as a Christian, but I would never say that I was like very religious. Like, I went to church, but other than that, like, religion was never like strictly enforced in my house. But also Christianity was something that for the majority of my life, it made me feel very shameful about like who I am as a person. I know that I felt like certain things, but I would look at the Bible, I would go to church and hear people preaching against it and shaming people for thinking that way or feeling that way or being that way.
What are some of the ways that you felt shameful? Like what are some of the things about Christianity that made you feel like this doesn't agree with me?
I would say, like, on a basic level, that like all these things are sins, down to even like your thoughts, and it's just I can't always control these things. Or even like, I for a long time thought that something was wrong with me, that I like had like very like logical questions about the religion, stuff that just like didn't make sense to me, about like the timeline and just all this stuff. It just like didn't make sense to me. And of course, like the whole aspect of how Black people in the Caribbean and Latin America and North America had been exposed to this religion. All of those things. And also I feel like another thing that's more recent that I've been like sort of working through. And recent, I mean like the past like 2 years, it's like sexuality. Like I'm a true believer that in the fluidity of sexuality, but that religion like taught you that it has to be like one way, and I don't believe in binaries for anything.
Okay. So what is your sexual orientation?
At the moment, I don't think I can classify it as anything. I feel like people always want to put labels. If there was a label, I think that the label that would fit the most is pansexual.
Okay.
But up until this point in my life, in romantic and intimate relationships, they've been heterosexual appearing because I've only been with men who identify as straight.
Right.
But that doesn't reflect like the full range of my sexual or romantic or intimate feelings for other humans, and that's probably not like what I will. That's not probably not what my relationships will reflect for the rest of my life. Well, I know it won't. So, yeah.
Okay. So not religious but spiritual. So what does your spiritual life look like? Like, what are your spiritual beliefs now?
Now, it's definitely paying homage to my ancestors and connecting to them, and trying to find what I would say, if for lack of better terms, what my powers are for that. So, like, for example, my closest ancestor who I knew in this life personally is my paternal grandmother, who passed in February 2016. And since she passed, like, I've been able to, like, communicate with her through my dreams.
Okay.
So just, like, trying to figure out, like, what I'm supposed to do, like, on that spiritual path. And I also feel like to a certain extent it connects with like what I'm doing career-wise, like pursuing nursing, like that healing work. So like I'm just trying to figure out, I know in some way they connect, but I'm just trying to figure out like how they connect. And also just like another like story like about my grandmother. She grew up in Jim Crow, South Carolina, and she wanted to be a nurse. She always wanted to be a nurse, but was told she couldn't, so she was a teacher instead. And it's just like since she's passed, like I didn't start nursing school until like 2 years after she passed. And like even down to like when I was applying to nursing school, when I had my nursing school interview, like she was coming to me in my dreams, and I feel like that was like some type of connection to like maybe this is like how I'm going to enter like my healing work and spiritual work. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Is there anything else that you feel is I guess really important or at the forefront of your spiritual journey? I guess maybe anything that as you went from like, okay, I'm not doing this full Christian thing, I just kind of want to do my own thing. Anything that you wish you heard somebody else say?
I would say, especially for like the Black people who do identify as Christians in the Black church, like there's so many aspects of like traditional African like religious and spiritual practices and like hoodoo in the Black church that people don't even like realize, like catching the Holy Ghost. Like if you go and watch or are able to participate in like a voodoo ritual, like when they are possessed by the spirits, like you see the same thing that you see in the church when someone says that they caught the Holy Ghost, or just like so many things, like so many aspects.
I've heard something else about like the wearing all white and like lighting candles. I think I read like an article.
Especially in Catholicism, which is to a certain extent I've always been a little envious of Black people who were able to grow up in like South America or Central America or the Caribbean because of the strong Catholic influences, and like they had the saints, so they were still able to practice like what their ancestors were practicing over in Africa, and able to like mask it within the Catholic saints. But in Christianity you don't have that, so it was a little harder. I feel like the only place where it was able to really survive in the States is in New Orleans with voodoo and hoodoo. So I would just say, like, if it feels natural to you, if it feels right to you, just do it. Like, even I feel like sometimes when I have conversations with people in my personal life about Christianity, I tend to be a little like negative towards the religion, and I don't mean to be. I feel like I come off that way because of like how it personally made me feel. But you can do that. You can practice Islam and still like embed those ancestral practices into it. Like you don't have to like shun the religion completely if you don't want to.
Right.
And do that.
Okay. So after religion and after spirituality, what's next for you on the list? So there was love, sex, relationships, society, culture, politics.
I would say love, sex, and relationships combined. Especially like the relationships and love aspect. Even like not just focusing on like romantic or intimate, but just like friend relationships, family relationships. And then definitely last is the politics, culture, and society, especially culture and society. With society, there's a lot of things that, and I'm sure like this is a process that I will go through for the rest of my life, but like unlearning a lot of things. And like becoming more comfortable is okay to not think like what how majority of people think. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Are you currently in a relationship?
I am.
Okay. So are you in love, or is this new?
I am. I'm in love.
Okay. So what can you tell people, or I don't know, just about how you view love? I know that love is like, you can't really explain it, but it is like, I guess, different to everybody in their like situation. And me personally, I've never been in love before, so I've always found it interesting when people explain like their experiences, finding someone who's like worth their time in that way.
Sorry, what was the question again? Like explaining.
Just like, yeah, just what is love to
is.
you? I know that you said that platonic relationships are really important as well, but since you're in a relationship, and a lot of people right now are struggling to be in relationships because everybody moves to like dating apps and stuff and hookup culture and whatever. So in your eyes, like, what is the most important aspect of like a real relationship, and like what do you consider love to be?
I would say first, like having some type of like energy connection to that person. That is something that like I'm really big on. Like I can walk into a room and this be my first interaction with a person. I can tell from the jump if that's a person that I want to be around, and I just based on like their energy. So definitely that is number one. But also like support and understanding. Like my partner now is completely different from like anyone I ever messed with, like ever. Like the amount of support, the amount of understanding is just like, sometimes I just sit down and just like, this is like unreal to a certain extent. Like it's just amazing. Like to find a partner a male who identifies as heterosexual. Of course, not saying that all heterosexual men are like this, but from my experiences, like I can talk to him about like race. I can talk to him about like sexuality. He's like not homophobic or transphobic, which is something that moving forward in my life is very important. I feel like a lot of people in general, especially in our culture, are very homophobic and transphobic, and that's just something that like I just can't deal with. It's not as simple as opinion to me. It's who you are as a person, and if you're not willing to learn that or can't even recognize like that that's wrong, then I just can't deal with you in any way. And he's not like that at all, and I just love it. Like he accepts my queerness. Like he's the first person who I ever like identified myself as queer to, and it felt like a little weird. I was like a little hesitant to say it, and then like he didn't like respond in that moment, but recently like he's been like introducing me to people as his partner, and like why you call me your partner and like not your girlfriend? And he said like, well, you all queer, and I don't want to limit you to your gender. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is out of this world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
How long have you guys been dating?
A little over a year and a half now. Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I wish you all the love and luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so I feel like politics is last. I mean, did you vote?
I did.
In the last, okay. Are you gonna vote in this upcoming election?
Yeah, I will. I feel like to a certain extent, it's just something that I feel like it comes by habit. Like even like as a child, I used to like go with my mom and she voted and stuff. I even like vote in the local elections, which I know that like the numbers are extremely low for. Like sometimes people only vote in presidential elections, and I understand like the corruptness of the system and that like does it really matter, but I still do it. I don't know.
No, I feel like we have to. I feel like we have to. It's so scary.
But it also like I completely understand people who choose not to. Like I completely understand that
like
aspect.
Why?
Yeah. And I feel like I still feel some of the same ways they do about it, which leads them not to vote, but I still do it. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. So I'm gonna get you to draw.
Okay.
So I want you to pick from those colors. Basically, like any color that you really feel a connection with. Anything that reminds you of anything important that's happened in your life. Any color that you've always loved. Anything that makes you really happy. Just anyone that feels like special to you. And then I want you to tell everyone like why you pick the specific colors you pick.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright, so I picked black because that's my favorite color.
Yes.
And then I picked like these shades of like blue, and I guess this is like sort of like greenish or turquoise color, because they like all remind me of the ocean, and the ocean is like my happy place. Like I love being at the ocean, even though I don't know how to swim, and like oftentimes I'm afraid of the water, especially the waves. The ocean is definitely like my happy place. It wasn't my first tarot reading, but like the first one of like any significance to me. Like the reader, she asked me like if I wanted to ask questions, or if she just wanted to read, if she wanted me to read from the cards, and I said just like read from the cards, whatever you feel. And the first thing she said is I hear waves, like waves of the ocean, and just like went into like how like water is like symbolizing like my healing process, and like I need to like find whatever connection I have to the water to promote my healing. And it's very interesting because my mother years ago, she said that she got a reading done. I think it was the only reading she ever got done, but she said like the woman told her the same thing, like she hear waves. So like it's just like very like odd, like that same spiritual connection, and like we have like
Oh my god, I love that. Okay. So I'm gonna get you to just draw for the remainder.
Okay.
And you don't have to worry about finishing or anything. Nobody ever does. It's just to keep your mind off of like, you know, just to give your hand something to do. Okay. So the first question is what makes you the most upset? Like what really pisses you off?
When people mispronounce my name. I feel like that's something I've experienced my whole life and still am. Even people who like I work with and see me on a regular basis, and just like it's not that difficult. Like it's not. And I feel like to a certain extent some people do it on purpose, and it's just really annoying. Like my name is my name. Like my mother, whoever named me that for a reason, and you owe me the respect to say it correctly. I don't care what you say that you can't pronounce. You can pronounce it. You're not trying to. So yeah, that makes me really angry. Some people, yeah. Or just like choosing like I should have to tell you a million times how to pronounce my name and you not to get it. Like it's not rocket science. So yeah, that's something that really annoys me, and that's something like when I encounter other people, especially if it's a name I'm not familiar with, like I try my I'm going to say it correctly. Right. Like, even if I had to say it to myself or over my head over and over, like I'm not going to continue to mess up a person's name because that's extremely disrespectful to me. Yeah, but also a lot of things make me angry, which like I said earlier, like I like to be by myself, which is why another reason why I like to be by myself, because you're not gonna piss me off when I'm not around you. So yeah.
True. What makes you really happy?
I don't even know why this is a hard question. It shouldn't be. What makes me very happy? I would say being able to like relax and like be in my own space, even if that means like being with like close friends or family. Having time periods when I'm able to do like what I want to do, like not have to worry about school or work or any other obligations. Just being completely stress-free. My close friends and family and my boyfriend makes me very happy. Yeah.
Okay. What are you most afraid of?
I think I'm most afraid of developing like some type of like severe mental illness that completely like takes away like my function without like any treatment. That's something that's like very scary to me. In school I'm taking my psych class this semester, and like just having clinicals, and I also like work part-time in a child psychiatry unit in a hospital, but more so for the adults who have like some level of like psychosis or like extreme depression. Like seeing people who like have completely no control over their lives, and the only way they can like sort of experience an ounce of that is like through like medication or some other treatment is like very scary. And I feel like a lot of people think that they are like far removed from that, but it can happen to anyone. Like it only takes like that one traumatic event or something to happen, and your life is completely changed, and your mind is like doing things like betraying you in a way that nothing can get that back. And especially like in my family, since like a lot of stuff has like strong genetic components, mental illness does run in my family. Like my maternal grandmother, and like a lot of her siblings have experienced mental illness. Also, like some of like my cousins and other family members, mainly depression. But I know like one thing I always ask my mother is if anyone in our family has ever had schizophrenia, because that's something that's like very tied to like genetics. Even though it's still rare, like only like 1% or less than 1% of the population actually has schizophrenia. But that's something that's very scary to me. But of course, like she doesn't know, because like even like now people are becoming more comfortable with talking about that. But like decades ago, that's not something that people talked about. Like, and if it was that severe, then you would either institutionalize or like completely isolate it. So that's not like you wouldn't have known, because that's not something that someone would have came out and talked about.
Right.
So yeah, that I'm very afraid of that.
Okay. What is something that you feel like people misunderstand about you? Like, what is something that you feel like you want people to know, that you feel like they always, I don't know, think the opposite?
I think some people think that I'm mean, mainly the people that's close to me, but also like strangers or people who I'm interacting with for the first time, based on like my facial expressions. I'm not a person who, I pretty much have like the same face all the time. Like even whether I'm happy or sad, like I don't really show a wide variety of emotions via facial expressions. So that's something that I feel like people misunderstand about me. But also sometimes the people who are close to me, I am mean to them at times. But I feel like it's more so sometimes like liking to be in my own space, and I feel like when people are like coming into that, it just makes me like really irritated. So I guess like in a way a defense mechanism. I'm not like a mean person at heart at all.
No, I feel that, and I feel like a lot of women, but I know like a lot of Black women are also accused of being like intimidating or like having resting bitch face, like because we're just very, I don't know, just like I'm smiling if there's like a reason to smile, or like maybe I'm happy and like I'm not smiling, but that doesn't mean I'm mean. So I get that.
Also, it's very interesting. I like recently came across an article that talked about how depression specifically in Black women can be masked as like attitude problems. Just like a way to express that. Now, like I went on like another website that like talked about like how like signs and symptoms of depression can be like are like different by gender, and like it's specified like for Black women, like irritability, it's like a sign that may be different from like other people based on like societal things and like how we are raised to how we are raised to portray our emotions, and to a large extent we are unable to freely, so it just comes off in that way.
Tell me about a time when you were treated differently because of who you are or how you look. Like, can you recall a time where you were treated differently in this society because of, I don't know, the fact that you're a woman or the fact that you're Black or anything like that?
I don't think I had one specific situation, but I would say like in school, probably every day. Like every day, going to a school that's like not a HBCU, and like being around white people all day, and white people who have like extreme privilege and can't recognize that. But whatever. Like I know what I'm capable of. I know like who I am. So, and of course like it still bothers you, but I feel like also like when you know who you are and you know that like you refuse to let that like mess you up mentally. Just like whatever, you can think what you want.
Right. What is your favorite song right now?
My favorite song is, I would say, the whole entire Sir album, but in particular, he has a song called Wires in the Way. It's like my favorite on the album. And it's so short, it's only like 2 minutes, so like when I listen to it, I have to play it like over and over. But I love his album. If you don't listen to him or don't know who you are, I would really recommend.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go. I'm definitely gonna go down with that. Do you consider yourself someone who makes like long-term plans? Like, do you have a 5-year plan? Or do you are you able to live in the moment?
I think that I sort of plan things out, but also live in a moment. Like I try not to like say to myself like, okay, this is where I want to be in 5 years, just because like if it doesn't happen, I don't like want to. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of like letdown that can come if it doesn't happen for whatever reason. But also, I sort of do have one. Like in 5 years. In 5 years, I'll be 29. I hope to like already be a midwife or like be in school to become a midwife. I always say that like I want my first child before 30, but now I'm just like I don't know. Like I don't want to be like a person in like my 40s with like a 1-year-old. But also I feel like there is nothing wrong with that if that like is how it happens.
Right.
So that's like a question mark, like kids before 30 or kids within the next 5 years. But I would say like my only major plan is to like be like on my last degree that will put me like in a position where I'm able to work for myself and do like the work that I need to do in my community.
Are you going to stay in this area, in the Baltimore area?
Yeah.
Do you feel like, okay.
Definitely. Especially like my long-term goal is to like sort of like create some type of like birthing center for specifically Black women who don't have access to like all the other alternative ways of like giving birth other than like a hospital, or just like teaching them about like different like things of like sexual and reproductive health, because I feel like one misconception, like a lot of people don't know completely what midwives do, and it's just like crazy because like for like forever like that was how your baby was birthed, not by doctors. Like that's a recent thing,
right?
And still like when you look at like the world, like in most countries you only go to a hospital, only go to a doctor if like it's an emergency situation or like if you have a high risk pregnancy. Otherwise you're outside of a hospital and your baby is being birthed by a midwife. But also like I feel like people think that midwives only birth babies. Also I hear people a lot thinking like calling midwives and doulas are the same, and they're not at all. Like a doula is, of course, a doula can be a health professional, but a doula is like anybody can get trained to become a doula. Like you're there for support, and I feel like it's a stronger spiritual connection with doulas. But like with midwives, a midwife can also serve as like your like regular like what like you go like get pap smears and stuff. Like a midwife can do that. So it's not just about like, oh, you see a midwife when you're pregnant or when you're about to give birth. Like no, you can just see her for other like, or him for other women health issues and treatments as well. So
okay. What is the hardest conversation that you've had to have?
This is very recent too, so it's like really fresh. But I don't want to go into too much detail about it. But
yeah, go as far as you feel comfortable.
Someone who's like really close to me is, and of course like I'm not trying to diagnose anyone, but like your eyes don't lie to you. For like years this person has experienced, and I think a combination of like severe mental health issues and substance abuse, and I feel like the substance abuse is like to like mask or self-medicate from whatever like they're experiencing emotionally. And that person is like still like in extreme denial about what they're going through, and it's just like you want to help this person, and it hurts you to see them going through this, but you can't help a person if they for one can't even like recognize that there's something wrong. So yeah. And like recently I like, and I know like after the fact I felt really guilty and bad about it, but I feel like over years like my emotions have just been like building up, and like I just exploded on this person and like went off on them. And of course they were still in denial, because if a person is like high, like that's not a time where they are like in an emotional state to really come to terms like with whatever is going on with them. But like I like said I don't think I said any mean things, but like I was definitely yelling, and like I blew up. Like I was going off on this person because it's just like I want you to get better, and like you can't even see that anything's wrong, and it's like hurtful. It's like to the point now where like I like sort of have to like emotionally remove myself from that person, even though like it's hard to, because they have a very significant role in my life. But it's just like I at this point find like my mental health declining because I'm constantly worried about this person, and it's like disturbing my peace and my energy, and it's just like I have to take a step back. Like whatever happens to you just happens. Like I hope that before anything terrible happens, this person can like come to terms and like seek help, because like I'm here for support, but I can't do anything for a person that they can't do for themselves. So
Right.
got to take a step back. So that was the hardest conversation I had to have.
Okay. What's the most challenging thing you've been through?
I've been through a few, but I feel like the most challenging, because it still has an effect on my life now, is like experiencing my father be incarcerated. He was in prison like pretty much the entire time I was in elementary school. I think he got out when I was like in the 5th grade, or like about to go into the 5th grade. And like my like memory, like I've done like stuff and like different activities where like it was like, oh, like if you can think back to your first day of kindergarten, like how was that for you? And I remember like my first day of kindergarten was like the day like he went away, like he started his sentence. So I just remember like seeing him there in the morning, and then like that was it until like I was able to go visit him. So yeah, that's something that like, and also like even though he's been out since I was like in 5th grade, we never like actually sat down and had a conversation about it. But also I feel like I don't want to start that, because I know I can't even imagine like how traumatic that is for a person who is incarcerated. And of course, like as a 5-year-old or as a child in general, didn't like understand like the whole like mass incarceration thing. Like at that moment, as a 5-year-old, I thought that like I was the only child experiencing it. Only if I knew, like not at all. But yeah, that's something that still has a negative impact on our relationship.
Are you and your father close?
I would say emotionally, no.
Are you self-conscious about anything?
I don't know. I feel like I'm a very awkward person, and a lot of things, like, not a lot of things, but some things I'm like constantly like wondering like how this looks to the outside world. But anything in particular, not so much now, because I've been like doing like personal work and like unlearning a lot of stuff. Like I used to be self-conscious about a lot of stuff, like my hair, a lot of things, but those things that I used to be self-conscious about, not so much now.
Okay. Share an embarrassing moment.
I know I have some. Just trying to think about it. An embarrassing moment. Oh my gosh, like my mind is blanking. Oh gosh. Can we come back to that?
Yeah,
I can't think of it right now.
Is there anything in your life that if you could go back and change it, like that you would? And like if so, like what would that thing be?
Definitely like not having my father be incarcerated. I feel like if that didn't happen, like our relationship would be completely different. I feel like his life would be completely different. Yeah, so I feel like that's the major thing.
Do you look up to anyone?
I think so, but I can't. I mean, of course, like the typical, like my mother, but
Yeah.
I don't think there's like, other than like her and like my grandmother, who is now deceased, I don't think there's like any like one person that really. I feel like there's a combination of people, like both in like my family, some friends, people who I don't know, who like who I'm able to like witness like their work through like the internet or like TV, who I look up to. But I don't think there's like one single person.
Okay. Let's talk about connection a little bit. So I know before the interview, I was telling you how I feel like we're not connected, like as a generation at all. What do you feel like we can do to connect more with each other?
I think that this project is definitely a start, even though like it's at this point at a smaller scale and restricted to like a single like area, people who live close by. But I think that the mission of this project is really amazing, and the fact that people are able to come on camera and share things that they wouldn't normally talk about when people see it. And like I was inspired to do this by like a video I saw from someone else you interviewed. I would say that to a certain extent, social media is an issue too. Also, like I feel like social media plays a big role in like groupthink, and if you don't think this way, if you not following these trends that majority of people on this site are following, then like people like shun you and shame you, you know, just completely like disrespectful and nasty towards you. So I feel like more talking, but also I think that a major thing that needs to happen is people doing like healing work for themselves. I feel like a lot of people like seek things for outlets, like social media being like a popular example. Especially like what I just said about like people like shaming people for not thinking like them or thinking like the majority of the group. Like a lot of times, like I feel like they're going through their own stuff, what makes them do like act in such a way towards other people, oftentimes people they don't even know. I feel like conversations like this, like we discussed earlier about like we should be in a society where people feel comfortable with like hitting up a stranger and be like, oh, like let's hang out, like let's meet each other, but we don't. And I feel like we're not going to get to that point where people can like sit down and have like these real conversations with each other if like there's so much within them personally that like they haven't healed from and like they can't even like process. I feel like that's difficult to like be that open with other people if you can't even be that open with yourself, if that makes sense.
So true. Or do you feel like you're somebody that rather like would sit down and talk with someone face to face about an issue, or do you send important information through text message ever? Like, do you ever try to avoid direct communication in hard times?
I think it depends on the person, but for the most part I like to be face to face. And I also, it may sound a little weird, but I also feel like I'm more open with people who are strangers. Because, like, if this is, like, my only interaction with you ever, like, I can say whatever to you and I don't have to worry about you holding me accountable to stuff or,
True.
like, bringing something back up that I didn't want you to say because, like, I'm not going to see you again. Like, I don't know you personally.
Right. There were 3 more questions. What do you need to heal? Number 1.
I would say definitely more therapy. I started therapy this year, which I feel like
me too.
So amazing. Like
yes.
Seeing even like some of my friends who like been in therapy, I think that's like really what motivated me. I had a friend who like started therapy, and it was like, oh, okay, like this is something like I want to do for myself too. But like the fact that like we can talk about that now and it's not like something that like you have to keep in secret is like just so amazing. But like I started this year and I went from like January to like I would say like May. I had like a very like crazy like school schedule in the summer, but also I feel like to a certain extent I was relying on my therapist for too much. Like if I like came in contact with like a stressful situation, I would like hold off and like wait until like my session with her to like sort of like get tools to process that, and I wanted to take a break because I wanted to be able to actually use those tools that she gave me and be able to like work through stuff on my own without like having to like wait for her and talk to her about it and see what she says or suggests for me to do. But also like now, since I've been out for a few months, there's like a lot of things that like I realized like I wasn't honest about. Like I only got to like the surface level. So I definitely want to go back. I need to go back to like talk more about those deeper issues. I also feel like there are some things that like she asked me about and like at the moment I just like could not think about it. I feel like especially like the traumatic stuff I've been through, I feel like I just like completely like repressed that subconsciously, and like at the moment I just like could not bring it out, even though I know it's something that I need to talk about. Also to heal, I think I just need to continue and get stronger and more disciplined in like my spiritual practices. That's a major thing.
Okay. And second to last question, what's missing? And this can be on a large scale, this can be in your life specifically, however you are led to answer the question, is what's missing?
I would say complete freedom, and not just like physically, but like emotionally too. Like I'm getting there, and I'm way more free than what I was like at any other point in my life. But there's still like a long way I need to go. Like I, in the future, see a day where like I'm just completely free, and I just absolutely don't care what anyone says, especially like when they're talking bad or like judging things that it's not harming anyone. It's just 100% making me happy. Like I want to get to that point.
Okay. And I lied. I just thought of another question. What do you wish people would talk about more?
I wish that people talked about, like, and not specific to anyone, but I wish that people would talk more about like their trauma. Not in a sense of like talking about it so people know your business or learn more about your life, but I feel like talking about stuff, and of course like there's other things, like talking isn't, I feel like, something that helps everyone, but in many ways it's very therapeutic. And also like by talking about stuff, like you don't know what someone else around you has been through, like if you're not willing to talk about it. Like people probably have been through the same things you've been through, but you wouldn't know that if like you're not open to talk about it. I feel like talking is like the first step to like be able to like work through that stuff. Like you have to like first recognize like that it happened and that it caused you to feel this way. But yeah.
Okay. And the last question, I'll give everyone the same scenario. All of the lights go off, but the computer screens, the cell phone screens, the TV screens stay on. So everyone kind of has to pay attention to literally only their screens. And it says PSA, public service announcement, and then it's your face. So like, what are you going to say to the world? If everybody could see if you had the opportunity.
Be yourself. Like it's okay if you don't think like other people. I feel like whatever you're doing, whichever way you think, like as long as it's not harming anyone, like it's okay. Like you don't have to, like whether that's your society at large, your family, your friends, like it's okay. And also it's okay to, if like whatever way you think or whatever way you're choosing to live your life, if it's causing people to like sort of shun you, or if it's like causing people to like, I guess like sort of like ostracize you in a way, then like it's okay to like let those people go out of your life too. Like even though like I'm not saying that it's easy, especially like when it comes to like family members, but you gotta like choose your happiness first. And at the end of the day, you're living your life for yourself. Like no one else is walking in your shoes, no one else is living your life, so you shouldn't be living your whole entire life choosing not to be yourself or choosing not to do things that make you happy because of how other people feel, because those people are probably doing the same thing, like which is why they're treating you the way they are, because they're not living life for how they want to and walking in their truth. So
yes, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
You did great. It was amazing. Show everybody what you drew.
Oh my gosh, it's a mess. So it's supposed to be an ocean, but I just like chose to put like the different shades that I chose.
Oh yeah,
So.
it's like the waves.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks.
Can you sign it?
Yeah.
And you use the last page, which
Yes.
they don't know, but you knew, but I had to say it because that's so exciting that that entire book is now full.
So I thought this was black, but it's like a green, it looks like.
That's so funny.
Wow.
Someone else did that too. I think it was Lance.
Oh my gosh, the embarrassing moment. I feel like I was
This is
thinking about
black.
this recently.
But whatever. I mean, there is like green stuff in the ocean, algae,
Yeah.
seaweed, some fish, like some whatever. It looks like dark enough, so it's fine.
Okay. This is Keshara in the flesh.